There's a fence in a lot of backyards that nobody really looks at anymore. Gray, weathered, leaning a little, maybe shared with the neighbor. You stopped seeing it years ago. Then one warm evening you're out on the patio, you glance over, and there it is. Bare, tired, and quietly making the whole yard feel unfinished. The fix sounds simple. Plant a vine, let it climb, cover the ugly. And that is exactly where a lot of homeowners walk straight into a 5-year mistake. Because the vines that cover a fence the fastest are usually the same ones that pull down gutters, slip behind the siding, push into the yard next door, and turn one weekend's good idea into a chainsaw project later. Covering a fence is the easy part. Covering it with something you won't be fighting every single summer is the part nobody explains. So that is what we're doing here. The right vine for the right structure, with honest warnings about weight, how each one grabs on, and how much pruning it really wants. And near the end, a few of the most popular vines in the country that I'd tell you to walk right past at the nursery. Here's the reframe that changes everything. Speed is not the goal. A vine that swallows a fence in one season is usually a vine that swallows everything else by year 3. What you actually want is a plant that fills in at a pace you can steer, on a structure that can hold it, in a spot where it can't reach anything it shouldn't. So before any plant goes in the ground, walk over to whatever you're trying to cover and run through 5 quick questions. They take about 2 minutes, and they save years. The first question is what the structure is actually made of and whether it's strong enough. A solid wood privacy fence, a metal arch, a brick or block wall, those can carry real weight. A leaning chain link panel or a thin decorative trellis from the garden center cannot hold a mature vine that eventually weighs as much as a grown adult. The second question is how the vine climbs, and this is the one most people never think about. It decides everything. Some vines twine, wrapping their whole stem around a support. Some grab with small tendrils and need something thin to curl around. Some cling straight onto a flat surface with sticky pads or little aerial roots. And those are the ones that grip siding, brick, and paint whether you invited them or not. And some, like climbing roses, don't really climb at all. You tie them on by hand. The third question is what's nearby. If the fence runs right along the house, under the gutters, or up against the roof line, a clinging vine is asking for trouble. Keep the grabby ones on freestanding structures, away from anything you'd hate to repair. The fourth question is whether it's a shared fence. A vine does not read property lines. If it's vigorous, half of it ends up on the other side, and that turns into your neighbor's problem and then your conversation. And the fifth question is the honest one. Will you actually prune it once a year? Almost every vine worth planting is lovely with one yearly trim and a headache without it. If the honest answer is no, you want the gentlest, slowest growers on this list, not the show-offs. Keep those 5 answers in your head. Now let's match them to plants. Vine number 1, Clematis. Start with the one that gives you the most color for the least drama. If you want a fence panel or a section of trellis covered in big saucer-shaped flowers without worrying about your house, this is the safe place to begin. Here's why it's so easy to live with. Clematis climbs by curling its leaf stalks around thin supports. It does not stick to walls and it does not bore into anything. That means it can't damage siding or brick the way the grabbier vines can. The trade-off is that it needs something slim to wind around. Bare wood or a flat fence panel won't work on its own. You give it a trellis, wire, mesh, or netting, and ideally you set that support a few inches off the wall so air can move behind the plant. Most garden varieties settle in at roughly 6 to 12 feet, which is a comfortable size for a single fence section or an entryway, and it's hardy across much of the country, generally zones 4 through 9. Now the part that quietly kills more clematis than anything else. There's an old line about this plant. Head in the sun, feet in the shade. The top wants 6 hours of sun to bloom well, but the roots want to stay cool and moist. People plant it in a hot, exposed strip with bare soil baking around the base, and then wonder why it sulks. The fix costs nothing. Lay a flat stone over the root zone, mulch it, or tuck a low perennial in front of the base to shade the soil. That one move makes a real difference. The second mistake is pruning. Clematis comes in 3 pruning groups, and they're cut at completely different times. Get it wrong, and you can snip off a whole year of flowers without realizing it. You don't have to memorize the science. You just have to know which group you bought. So when you're standing at the nursery, look at the tag for the pruning group, and if it isn't printed, ask before you buy. That single piece of information saves you a confusing year. One more thing worth saying plainly, especially if you have curious pets or young grandkids in the yard. Clematis is considered toxic to people and animals if chewed, and the sap can irritate skin. It's not a reason to avoid it, but it's a reason to keep it where it's admired, not nibbled. That covers a controlled splash of color. But if you want the fence to do something for the wildlife too, the next vine earns its spot. Vine number 2, coral honeysuckle. Picture a fence in late spring with clusters of slender coral red trumpets all over it, and a hummingbird working the flowers a few feet from your chair. That's coral honeysuckle, sometimes sold as trumpet honeysuckle, and it's one of the most well-behaved climbers a homeowner can plant. I want to be careful with the word honeysuckle because it carries baggage. The honeysuckle that gives the whole group a bad name is Japanese honeysuckle, and that one is genuinely invasive across much of the country. This is the native cousin, and it's a different animal. Extension programs from the Southeast up through the Mid-Atlantic list it as non-invasive and one of the best native climbers available. So if you've heard never plant honeysuckle, this is the exception, and it's worth knowing the difference at the register. It climbs by twining, wrapping its stems around a support, which makes it gentle on structures. The stems don't cling into walls or root into wood. So it's a friendly choice for a wood fence, a chain link run you want to disguise, an arbor, or a trellis. Give it something to wind through, and it'll do the rest. It runs about 10 to 20 feet, holds its leaves into winter in mild regions, and blooms in flushes from spring well into fall, which is a long show for a low-maintenance vine. It's hardy roughly zones 4 through 9 and flowers best in full sun, though it tolerates some shade with fewer blooms. The common mistake here is feeding it too well. Pile on high nitrogen fertilizer and you get a lush green vine with hardly any flowers. It actually performs better in average soil with a light hand. A simple cleanup trim after the main flush keeps it tidy without costing you blooms. The little red berries that follow the flowers feed birds, but they're not for people, so it's a bird plant, not a snacking plant. Beyond that, it's about as easy as a flowering vine gets. Quick question while we're here, because it genuinely helps me point people in the right direction. What are you actually trying to cover? A wood privacy fence, a chain link line, a bare masonry wall, or an empty pergola or arch? Drop it in the comments. The structure changes the answer more than almost anything else. That's the easygoing, sunny, wildlife-friendly option. The next vine is for a problem most of these plants can't touch. Vine number 3, climbing hydrangea. I'll be honest about this one up front because the honesty is the whole point. Climbing hydrangea asks for patience that almost nobody warns you about. And that missing warning is exactly why so many people rip it out a year too early. The first year, it does close to nothing. Sometimes the second year, too. It just sits there looking like a twig that isn't working. Most people give up. That's the mistake, because under the soil, it's building a serious root system. And once it finally takes off, it becomes one of the most striking things in the yard. Mature plants can stretch 30 to 50 feet or more and live for decades, with big, flat, white lace-cap flowers in June and July, and beautiful, peeling, cinnamon-colored bark that gives you something to look at all winter. What makes it special is shade. Almost every other vine on this list wants sun. Climbing hydrangea is one of the few vigorous climbers that genuinely performs on a north-facing wall or under a tree canopy, the dark, difficult side of a property where nothing else wants to climb. It's hardy in the cooler half of the country, roughly zones 4 through 7, and it tends to struggle in the heat and humidity of the deep south, so it's a better fit for northern and mid-latitude yards. Now the warnings, because this plant needs respect. It clings directly to flat surfaces with little aerial rootlets, and it gets heavy. That combination means two things. First, those clinging rootlets can be a problem on older or already weakened mortar, and they are not something you want gripping wood siding, painted trim, or a house wall you may need to repaint or repair later. Second, do not put it on a delicate trellis or a tired fence. It will outgrow and eventually overwhelm a flimsy support. Where it belongs is a sturdy, freestanding masonry wall, a stone structure, or a heavy-duty pergola built to last. Plant it there, water it faithfully through those slow first couple of years, and then mostly leave it alone. If you have a shady wall you've written off as a lost cause, this is the plant that changes your mind. It just asks you to wait. That's the patient, shade-loving heavyweight. The next one is the classic, and it comes with a catch most people don't expect. Vine number 4, climbing rose. When people picture a flower-covered fence or an arbor dripping with soft pink blooms over a gate, they're usually picturing a climbing rose. And if you want that look with the least fuss, the variety to know is New Dawn. It's been a benchmark for nearly a century because it does something a lot of older roses don't. It shrugs off disease better than most, reblooms through the season in soft, shell-pink clusters, and carries a light, sweet fragrance you'll actually notice walking past. But here's the catch nobody mentions until your rose is sprawling sideways in a thorny heap. Climbing roses don't actually climb. They have no tendrils, no twining stems, no sticky pads. The canes just get long, and if you don't guide them, they flop. You have to tie them onto the support yourself with soft ties. That's not a flaw, it's just the deal. And there's a trick that turns an average rose into a wall of flowers. Train the long canes sideways, as close to horizontal as you can. Roses bloom along horizontal canes far more than vertical ones, so fanning them out across a fence or an arch gives you flowers the whole length instead of a few blooms at the top. It likes full sun, runs roughly 10 to 15 feet, sometimes more, and is hardy about zones 5 through 9. It tolerates a little shade better than many climbers, which makes it a decent pick for an east-facing fence that gets morning light. In humid regions, you may still see some black spot in a wet stretch, so give it room for air to move and don't crowd it. 2 practical notes before you plant. First, the support has to be genuinely strong. A mature climbing rose is heavy, and a flimsy trellis or a sagging fence will lose that fight. Second, if you're planting it against a wall, set it about a foot out from the base so rain actually reaches the roots and air can circulate behind it. And wear leather gloves when you train it, because those thorns are not decorative. If your goal is a fence or arbor that looks like a cottage postcard, this is the one. It just wants a little hands-on guidance instead of being left to its own devices. So far, every vine here is one you can plant with confidence. The next one is where we have to slow down and talk about the difference between a beautiful idea and an expensive one. Because this is the plant people fall in love with at the nursery and regret in the forest. Vine number 5, native wisteria. Wisteria is the plant that stops people in their tracks. Long cascades of purple flowers spilling over a pergola or an arch. the kind of thing that looks like it belongs in a painting. So people see it, fall hard, and grab the first wisteria they find at a big box garden center. That's the regret. The wisteria sold in a lot of stores is Chinese wisteria, and sometimes Japanese wisteria, and both are documented as invasive across much of the Southeast and Mid-Atlantic. They escape yards and smother native trees in the wild. A single plant can climb 30, 40, even 60 feet and end up weighing hundreds of pounds, enough to crush a flimsy structure and pull at anything it touches. Some states restrict them outright. So before you buy any wisteria, this is one of those moments to check your state's invasive plant list, because in some regions the answer is simply no. Here's the good news. You don't have to give up the look. There's a native version, American wisteria, and a close relative, Kentucky wisteria, that give you a similar purple draping look with far better manners. Extension programs and native plant centers consistently point to these as the smarter swap. American wisteria is hardy roughly zones 5 through 9 and is much less aggressive and less damaging to buildings than the Asian types. The cultivar you'll see most often is Amethyst Falls, and it often throws a second flush of bloom in summer. If you garden somewhere brutally cold, Kentucky wisteria is the hardiest of the bunch, with varieties like Blue Moon that rebloom and survive winters that would flatten the Asian kinds. Even the native ones twine and get heavy, so they still want a genuinely sturdy structure, a solid arbor or a strong post and wire setup, not a decorative trellis. 2 rules keep them blooming and behaving. Prune them, once after flowering and again with a summer trim to tidy the long, whippy growth, because that discipline pushes energy into flowers instead of a green tangle. And go easy on fertilizer, since too much nitrogen gives you a leafy vine with almost no blooms. Keep it about 10 feet away from the foundation, and know that the seeds and pods are toxic if eaten, so it's not one for a yard where kids graze. Plant the native wisteria, give it a strong frame and one honest pruning habit, and you get the dream without the decades-long fight. That's the showpiece, done responsibly. The next vine is spectacular too, but I'm only going to recommend it for one specific kind of spot. Vine number 6, Maypop passionflower. If you've ever seen a passionflower up close, you don't forget it. The bloom looks engineered, a fringed purple and white crown around a central structure that stops people mid-sentence to ask what on earth it is. This is Maypop, our native passionflower, and it's tough, fast, and genuinely useful for wildlife. It's also a colony builder, which is why placement is everything. Maypop is native across the southeast and south-central states, hardy in the warmer regions, roughly zone 6 or 7 in south, where it dies back in winter and pops up again from the roots in spring, often stronger than the year before. It climbs by tendrils, handles poor and dry soil better than almost anything else here, and shrugs off drought once it's established. It's also the host plant for the Gulf fritillary butterfly, so a single vine can turn a fence into a butterfly station. But here's the part you have to plan for. Maypop spreads underground by root suckers, and under good conditions, it sends up new shoots well away from where you planted it. That means it can run into a bed you actually liked. So this is not the vine for a tidy little trellis next to your prize roses. Where it shines is a spot where spreading is fine, or even welcome. A long back property chain link fence you just want filled. A rough screen at the edge of the yard. A hot, dry strip where you want green and color and don't mind it wandering. If you do want to contain it, install a root barrier at planting, or simply give it a defined zone and mow off any suckers that escape. One more practical note. The ripe Maypop fruit is edible and kind of fun, but the unripe fruit and foliage can upset your stomach. So it's a wait until it's right plant, not a graze anytime one. And skip trying to grow it in a pot because it's never really happy with its roots confined. Give Maypop the right corner and it's a generous, low-input vine. Give it the wrong one and you'll spend years pulling shoots. Match it to the spot and it's a joy. That's the wild card. The last recommended vine is the quiet overachiever, especially if you garden in the South. Vine number 7, crossvine. Crossvine doesn't get the attention it deserves, and the gardeners who know it tend to keep it as a personal favorite. It's a tough native that covers a structure at a reasonable pace, puts on one of the showiest early flower displays you'll see, and asks for very little in return. In late winter and early spring, when most of the yard is still asleep, crossvine erupts in clusters of orange-red trumpet flowers with yellow throats. It's one of the first big nectar sources of the year, so it pulls in the earliest hummingbirds before almost anything else is open. It's hardy roughly zones 6 through 9, blooms best in full sun but tolerates real shade, and it isn't fussy about soil. And because it's semi-evergreen, the leaves hang on through winter and often turn a deep reddish purple, so the fence still has something going on in the cold months instead of looking like a pile of bare sticks. It climbs with tendrils tipped in little hold-fast discs, so it can grip a fence, an arbor, or a rough wall. But it's far gentler about it than the truly destructive clingers. A moderate grower, it'll cover a trellis or a fence section without trying to eat the whole yard. Though over many years, it can stretch quite long if you let it. The main thing to keep an eye on is the occasional root sprout, which is easy to snip or mow. The popular variety to look for is Tangerine Beauty, selected for heavy, reliable color. If you're in the South or the lower Midwest and you want a native vine that gives you early flowers, winter interest, hummingbirds, and good behavior all in one plant, crossvine is hard to beat. One small note, deer will browse it in winter, so in heavy deer areas, keep an eye on new growth. Now those are 7 vines I would consider before the usual fast-growing troublemakers, as long as the structure and the spot fit the plant. But there are a handful of vines that look like the obvious answer and quietly become the worst decision in the yard, and you'll see every one of them for sale. Let's talk about which to walk past. The first is trumpet vine, sometimes labeled trumpet creeper. The flowers are gorgeous and hummingbirds love it, which is exactly how it lures people in. The problem is everything else. It clings to masonry with aerial roots, and it spreads underground with runners that surface in the lawn, in nearby beds, and through cracks in the patio, sometimes feet away from the original plant. It gets heavy. It's hard to fully remove once it's settled in, and the sap gives some people an itchy rash, which is why one of its old nicknames is cow-itch vine. Walk past this one if your fence is anywhere near the house, or if you want a yard that stays tidy. If you truly love the look, the native crossvine or coral honeysuckle gives you similar hummingbird magnet color without the underground campaign. The second is Virginia creeper. You'll hear it praised for its blazing red fall color, and that part is true. But it's extremely vigorous. It climbs with sticky pads that leave marks on whatever you peel it off of, and it can blanket a structure faster than you expect. The bigger issue for a lot of households is the berries, which are seriously toxic if eaten. Walk past this one if you have young kids or pets in the yard, or if you only have a small space to fill, because containing it becomes a recurring chore. The third is English ivy, and this is the one I'd skip almost everywhere. It's listed as invasive in many states. It climbs by clinging rootlets that pull at siding, work into mortar, hold moisture against wood, and damage paint. On a fence near a house, it's a slow-motion repair bill. In the wider yard, it smothers everything, and it's nearly impossible to fully get rid of once it's established. On top of that, the leaves and berries are toxic to people and to dogs, cats, and horses. There are far better ways to cover a wall, including the climbing hydrangea we talked about earlier for shade. And the fourth is Japanese honeysuckle, the invasive cousin I flagged at the start. It's sweet-smelling and fast, and it's one of the most ecologically damaging vines in the country. The swap is simple, and we already covered it. Plant native coral honeysuckle instead, and you get the look and the hummingbirds without the harm. If you remember nothing else from this section, remember the pattern. The vines people regret are almost always the ones sold on speed, and the ones that cling to or sucker near the house. If you'd rather choose a vine once and not spend the next 5 summers cutting it back or scraping it off the siding, that's the whole reason this channel exists. If that's useful to you, subscribe, and the next yard problem gets a little easier to solve. So here's the simple version to take to the nursery. Before you put a single vine in your cart, answer the 5 questions from the start, but tie them to what you're looking at. Know what you're covering and how strong it is, and match the vine's mature weight to it. A solid wood fence, a metal arch, or a masonry wall can hold a wisteria or a climbing rose. A chain link run or a light trellis is better suited to clematis or coral honeysuckle. Then check how the vine attaches, because that's your safety rule. If it twines or uses simple tendrils like clematis, coral honeysuckle, native wisteria, or Maypop, it is generally friendlier for fences and freestanding structures. Crossvine also climbs by tendrils, but the tips can grip with small adhesive discs, so keep it on fences, arbors, or rough structures you are comfortable letting it hold on to, not on painted siding or trim you may want clean later. If it clings flat with pads or aerial roots, like climbing hydrangea, trumpet vine, ivy, or Virginia creeper, keep it well away from the house, the gutters, and any siding you don't want to repair. Read the tag for the zone, the mature size, and, for clematis, the pruning group. If a plant is a known spreader like Maypop, plan its zone before you plant, not after. And if it's a wisteria, make sure it's the Native American or Kentucky type, not the Asian kind. That's it. 5 questions, 1 attachment check, and a quick look at the tag. Do that, and the odds of planting a vine you'll regret drop almost to 0. A bare fence isn't a hopeless thing. It's just a blank surface waiting for the right plant. And right almost never means fastest. The vines that make a yard look settled and cared for are the ones matched to the structure they're on, planted where they can't reach what they shouldn't, and trimmed once a year by someone who knew what they were getting into. So pick the one spot that's been bothering you, look at what it's made of, and choose the vine that fits it instead of the one with the biggest flowers on the tag. Start with a single structure. You can always add the next one once you see how good the first one looks. Before you go, tell me in the comments which vine you're leaning toward and what you're covering: a fence, a wall, a pergola, or that awkward side yard nobody knows what to do with. And if you've ever planted a vine you came to regret, name it. Because someone reading this is about to make the same mistake, and your warning might save them.